Hi everyone, it's Marc Bruin again from simplifyinglife.com.au. Did a video the other day about stop searching for what you want and start finding it first. And it elicited a couple of reactions from the crowd, which I always find fascinating because that allows us to get into a discussion. And one of them was, yeah, that's all good, Mark, but how does that actually work? How do you start focusing on the positives if everything in your life seems to be pretty bad? And another comment was, shouldn't we start focusing on the feelings inside us and trying to change the thoughts around those feelings so those feelings change? Valid comments, all very valid comments. I think to start with that last one, absolutely. When you look at the broader scheme of things, to look at feelings and what thoughts have created those feelings and to work with that in a very mindful way, absolutely important. It's a majority of what I do with clients. I just think that the focus or the scope of the video I did was a slightly different one, focusing on, okay, if we find ourselves in a particular spot and don't like being there, what can we do about it to very slowly but surely start feeling better? And that's what I wanted to focus on with that one. And the question, as in how do you do that, was a very valid question as well. So I'd like to address that one today. Real quick, I'll give you an example out of my own life. So to frame it, the idea was in my video to say, okay, if we're not feeling great, if we can't find ourselves to find anything good or not a lot of good in our personal situation, try and focus on the stuff that actually is working as much as you can. So if you feel lonely, try and focus on where you feel connected. If you feel disappointed or non-achieving, trying to focus on where you are actually making progress and where you're doing well. That type stuff. That was the tenor of the video. Now I'll give you an example out of my own life. It sort of proves the point to a degree. Again, keep in mind that we're scoping, we're focusing on a small aspect of a whole therapeutic journey. A couple of years ago, in 2016, doesn't really matter. The story doesn't matter either, but I was going through a time where things were actually pretty crap. I went through call it dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it. And for about 9 months, I think that's when it lasted. It started on my birthday, would you believe it? When I got a message that really threw me for six. And over the months after, I went on this sort of downhill spiral journey to a pretty deep, I think, according to the book, what you could call depression. I think if I would have done one of those tests, the DAS-21 or the 42 or another GP test or whatever, I would have absolutely ticked all the boxes for major depressive disorder. The thing is, I just never did that test, so I didn't have depression. Works for me. Now, what I did do in that time, even though the majority of my days, and again, the story doesn't matter, the majority of my days were pretty horrible. They had some financial implications, at least I thought in my head that was going to be the case. And I couldn't get out of that one. I just saw myself going down the drain financially pretty quickly. And that thought absolutely scared the living daylights out of me. Now, that was the majority of my day's experience. But you know what? Every morning I woke up, if I actually even slept, and usually I did fall asleep after a while, even though it took me a couple of weeks to get back into a normal sleeping pattern. But generally I would wake up in the morning with this 20-second, 30-second twilight feeling of I'm not really there anymore, I'm not really here either. And that feeling actually was all right. It was okay. I felt like I was waking up to a new day and things were okay. Until what I call my big, wet, musty blanket would come over me again and push me down. It really felt like a weight that was constantly on me all day long. But I could notice a difference. There was a difference between those 20 seconds, 30 seconds after I woke up, and then that big, nearly physical, heavy feeling of one or multiple big, wet, musty blankets just lying over me all day long. And that would be my overall sensation during the day, just heavy. Really heavy and depressed most likely. Now what I started to do, and it was a bit of a lifesaver as well, but it was only pretty much for some time, it was the only thing I could hold on to, is to focus really strongly and committedly on those 20 seconds. I started making a habit of whenever I would wake up, just really try and tap into those 20 seconds. And you go like, Well, Mark, yeah, good for you, but what is that if the rest of your 16 waking hours is pretty crap? It's like, well, it's a lifesaver. It's the last straw that I could clutch on, and I was clutching at it, man. I was clutching. Now, over time, over the months, I started noticing that the 20 seconds became 30 seconds, and sometimes I went back to 10 seconds. But over time, gradually, the time frames that I felt that sense of rest, ease, peace, whatever you want to call it, started to lengthen over time, slowly but surely. So at some stage I was aware that I could hold on to that feeling for about 45 seconds and sometimes even a minute. And I told my partner about it. I was like, how you doing? And I said, I'm actually still okay. I'm doing all right. Until, the day started to lengthen in that sense, and, my sensations started to lengthen, and I could hold on to that feeling for about 5 minutes, over a minute. And from that point forward, even though the rest of the day might have been pretty horrible, not all of it, but the majority of it, that became a little lifesaver, because if I knew that I could feel that way in the morning for sometimes, then I knew that not everything was lost. If I could tap into that feeling, I knew I could start tapping into that feeling more and more and more. And I think that's the gist of trying to find what it is that you already have. It was a sense of peace, it was a sense of ease, it was a sense of calm, it was a sense of stability that I could tap into, even though the rest of the days was unease, instability, not calm at all, pretty depressed. But that little bit was good, was all right. Now that's that's the idea of tapping into something that feels better. Once you do that, there is an element of neurological activity, and there's practical activities as well that just allow you to focus on that feeling that you want to feel more of, not focusing on that stuff that you don't want to feel anymore, because both are true. Your brain will happily follow you in either direction. It doesn't really care. It focuses your senses on what you put your predominant attention on. So even though it seems silly to focus on something that's only 20 seconds long, if the rest of your 16 waking hours is pretty horrible, it can be an absolute lifeline. Read, for instance, Viktor Frankl's book, The Meaning of Life. If you do that one, absolutely, his story is about all that. It's about holding on in Auschwitz or in whatever camp he was to something that gave him hope that he could hold on to, even though the rest of his life, or the rest of his existence at that point was not really great. So that's the lesson in terms of a practical application of that. Try and find and hold on to what you got inside you that you want to feel more of, even though the rest is not really there. If you can do that, I can pretty much promise you, no real guarantees, but I can pretty much promise you that over time, if you do that diligently, stuff will start to happen, and your brain will actually start to help you focus more on the good things in life. So my 20 seconds of calm, ease, peace, stability became a minute, became 5 minutes, became a half a day, became a couple hours, became half a day, became a day. And now, nearly 4 years later, I'm doing all right. There's still times that I don't feel good, but the way I felt then, which is not what I want to feel anymore, is not here anymore. So have I overcome it? Well, I don't know. I don't care really. I just focus on what it is that I want to feel. And again, that part of a bigger therapeutic journey, mindfulness sits in there, but definitely that very dogged, disciplined focus on what it is that you want to feel more of will absolutely help. Hope that makes sense. If you've got questions, you know where to find me. Email, whatever, simplifyinglife.com.au. You can find me on Facebook and wherever. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Cheers.